Hello. Hi. I am just setting up my camera, hoping that this will stay. I have this like very precarious setup here. Um, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to you all, wherever you're coming from. Ooh, I am coming from a short lunch break, and I saw some clients this morning trying to now start out my afternoon with y'all, which feels so good to be here. Wanted to talk today about recession proofing your business. I am Angela Tam, mental health therapist of 10 plus years, small business owner, short and long term properties, locally as well as nationally, have some properties on the East Coast as well. I've been doing entrepreneurial work for as long as I remember. It's in my blood. I remember in high school, I used to clean sneakers for like $7, and that was my thing for a while. I used to find little ways to earn money. I used to sell candy, raising money growing up, and I worked um, really early on, like trying to get financially independent. I didn't earn much money. It was just like, doing like I worked at Starbucks when I was younger, like really, really young. Hi, Eugene. Good to see you. Talking about recession proofing our business, um, breaking free from the Asian money wound, and wanted to like put out there, what is the Asian money wound? What is that? Um, Asian money wounds are deep rooted intergenerational cultural beliefs around money. So some of the things that we struggle with in this area are like interculturally, intergenerationally, is scarcity mindset. Number one is scarcity mindset. It's like there's never enough money to go around, there's never enough resources to go around. We always have to save, 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 hustle, 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 never take risks. So the second is like shame around wealth. Just like placing a high value on humility, modesty, and then it can lead to shame and guilt around success or wealth or affluence, and people feeling like making it feel really difficult for people to be comfortable with earning or enjoying their wealth or investing in their own personal growth. And then family obligation. So in a lot of our cultures, we have this like sense of obligation or responsibility to support our families. I know for me, my mother-in-law were always thinking about their like re- their they're both retired, but like their like senior elder care and how we're going to pay for it, just thinking about like how it is our responsibility in this generation to like support them in their late age. And that's like intergenerational belief, right? The next intergenerational belief is like there's a fear of failure around like achievement and success. So like on one hand, you have shame around wealth. On the other hand, there's like this like fear of failure around success. So it kind of puts us in a bind. Like we're afraid to succeed, and then we are afraid of failure. Um, and then there's like lot of lack of financial literacy. That's also like a reality in our culture, and it makes it difficult to build wealth. Also, an Asian money wound is linking finances to love, care, and support. I talk about this in my posts a lot. Like when we don't have like the resources that we might need or want right now, we don't have a sense of financial safety. That is one thing, but like how it deeply gets internalized is this sense of shame around not having um, wealth, but also like not having a sense of self love when it's tied to our money. So, the key to understanding this is when we are healing from our Asian money wounds, it doesn't mean that we automatically don't feel these things or don't struggle with these things. It's like that our relationship with our finances becomes neutral. Like we see finances and wealth and money as something that's just neutral, and it's just a tool or a resource that can help us grow, learn, and move towards liberation, or really like when we don't have a good relationship with money, when we don't like have a sense of neutrality about money, we want to like hoard, or we want to like um use it to as a tool of oppression. That's when it gets really dicey. And that's what oftentimes we see, like a lot of folks who do have a lot of money and are using it, um like in our capitalistic system, to like gain more power, to like hoard resources. That's when it's like really hurtful. How do we break free from the Asian money wound, even during a recession or a depression? So I want to like clarify that the Asian money wound exists even if we are not in a recession. If we are in a really thriving market where we're like doing really well financially, we can still really struggle with these money wounds, because those money wounds show up by us being fearful of losing it, fearful of being taken away. Like there's this sense of like stress related or anxious kind of relationship with money. And even when we have a lot of it, we can be afraid that it's going to be gone. So I just want to state that like Asian money wounds or money wounds in general have nothing to do with reality. The reality of the situation is that we could be billionaires and still struggle with money wounds, or we could be scraping by and not struggle with money wounds. And so the false the misconception around this is that you must not have money or you must not have enough resources, so you struggle. No, people who struggle can struggle even with a lot of financial stability. And this is the case in our communities, in our Asian communities. That's why you see like folks that die with millions and millions of dollars to their name because they can't let go of it. They have it hidden in their mattress. They don't spend a dime. They're like the millionaire next door. They're just like millionaires hiding in plain sight, and they're like just like low risk, and they have a really fraught relationship with money. And that is like a lot of our people in our community is like we our bank account and our like feelings about our bank account, totally different. Totally different. Like you could have again like millions of dollars in your bank account, but like your attitude, your behavior might not have any indication that you have financial stability. You might be acting like you have nothing. You might be acting like it's going to be lost or taken away from you at a drop of a dime. And so that I just want to like preface this like conversation that way. Like it has nothing to do with our reality. And I'm not saying that financial safety is not important. Like, I'm saying we need some financial safety in order to maintain a sense of stability. But how that, like, what terms does that financial safety need to be? Like, why do we, um, why do we feel like we never have enough? At what point is enough? So that's also a question, right? Um, what uh, how do we break free of the Asian money wound? How do we heal from the Asian money wound, especially during the recession when like there people might be laid off, people might be really suffering, people might be like unemployed, people might be like really feeling the squeeze right now, and people are not doing well, um, without really a job in sight, perhaps. Like, what happens? How do we heal in this season during this recession, especially in this circumstance? If you are laid off, if you are in between jobs, how do we break free of the Asian money wound of scarcity, shame, fear? Well, let's work through that. In my framework, there's the understanding that we are made up of multiple parts. So what that means is like we have um, like we're not just like a singular being, but we have sub personalities. That each personality has their own set of beliefs, their own set of values, their own set of behaviors. And so when we break down and explore these different parts of ourselves, then we begin to understand where these limiting beliefs come from, where these behaviors around money come from and wealth, and how to heal them. 95% of our wounds come from intergenerational trauma. So when we're looking at this and all of our parts of ourselves, we inherited a lot of these like sub personality and sub beliefs through our ancestors. So the quickest way to like learn about your relationship with money is to go back and look at your ancestors' ways of dealing with money. If 95% of our wounds come from intergenerational trauma, then let's look back on how your ancestors dealt with it. My ancestors are from the southern China area of Fujian and Guangdong. So my dad is Cantonese speaking. My mom is Fujian from the Fujian province, and a lot of those people are what we would consider now like nomadic. They yes, they were like they had their origins in southern China, but they were deeply, deeply nomadic because they were constantly being pushed out by poverty, pushed out by uh, this like really, really deep um, lack of resources systemically. And my ancestors did not experience um, like having adequate physical or emotional or psychological financial safety. So, how I relate to my money is like just 5% of what is present. 95% of that comes from my ancestors. So, just working through all my sub personalities who are tied to my ancestors is a big part of that work. So, another aspect is building our relationship with the parts, like building compassionate, accepting, curious, warm a relationship so that these parts can safely express themselves and heal. So, like, an example for that is like, how do we, um, like, we have like certain parts of us that we're like, oh, I don't wanna like address that part. I just want to push that part away. I don't like that part. Well, the part of the work is to build a relationship with every single part, even the parts that we seek to push away, even the parts that we don't like, even the parts that seemingly don't serve us. But that goes into my next point, which is like every single part has a positive intent. So all of our feelings are valid, all of our experiences are valid, even if we have learned that they're not valid and they're dangerous to be with. Embracing abundance mindset. This is like also really, really hard for me because this is not like how my ancestral lineage operates. They did not have an abundance mindset. So it's shifting, helping us shift our and understanding our parts that have a limiting belief about success, a limiting belief about like acquiring wealth, acquiring money, and working with the parts of us that have limiting beliefs around that, so that other parts of us who are very open, very in abundance, can have a space to live, can have space to exist in our like metaphorical conference room that we have for ourselves, excuse me. um and then the last part is creating new patterns and beliefs. And that's what we do together. Like the ideas, change comes from being in community. Change comes from being with each other and struggling and working with each other's limiting beliefs, each other's parts. And we ultimately test and try to do things differently. We test and try to do things in a different way. And that is hella scary sometimes, to do things in a different way. So, what excuses like do you find yourself making that cause you to not take action on this inner work to heal the Asian money wound, or to heal, um, you know, like the parts of us that like don't have the boundaries with our time, that are undercharging, that are like chronically operating out of guilt, because all of that is tied to the money wound. It's a tie to our attachment wounds ultimately, because we don't want to be abandoned, we don't want to be left, we don't want to be, um, the idea is that like we work really hard, we have all these like protective measures in place because we don't want to be letting people down. If we let people down, they're not going to like us. If they're not going to like us, they're not going to keep us around. So that is what I call like, that's what we call attachment wounds in our, and how it shows up in our in our businesses. And what excuses are we making to not want to take action to heal those wounds so that they don't show up in our businesses? So like a common excuse is, I don't have time. I don't have time to do the inner work. I don't have time. I have too much responsibilities. I can't get away during the day to dedicate some to personal growth and development. And that is such a real struggle. I have 3 kids. I'm running, we're doing, um, we're running 3 companies right now, 4 companies right now, between my husband and I, my partner and I. And I feel that like squeeze for time. I feel that squeeze in my energy. And part of it is making a really like uncomfortable decision to like make the time to do this. And it is going to be incredibly uncomfortable to do that. The second excuse that a lot of people make is, I can do this on my own. I can DIY it. I can handle my own growth. I can read books. I don't need to hire like a coach or a therapist. I could do it on my own. And just curious about how that's gotten you. What has that worked for you so far? Has that worked? Being really honest with yourself and asking, like, has that worked for me? When I haven't asked for support, I've done it on my own. What There are things that you can do on your own, but there are going to be things that you can't. It's going to be, we all need to incorporate other forms of support. Um, the other thing is, it's too expensive. That's another like excuse that we make to with ourselves. Like, it's too expensive. Coaching and therapy is like, inner work is like too expensive and not worth the investment. The next excuse is, I'm just not ready yet. Like, I just need to like, you know how like when you hire a cleaner, you have to like organize before you have to like clean up your house before you have the cleaners come in and actually do the like deep cleaning. Or like if you have like people over for dinner, you have to like clean up before you do it. And sometimes you just like not ready to clean up, not motivated, and you might feel like you need to be a better place in your life to do this work. Well, I'm going to tell you that's a lie. I stopped cleaning up before people came over for dinner. I just really like leaned in and radically accepted that I'm in a hard season, and I'd rather have company than have like than to like suffer in isolation. And that's just like where I'm at right now. So like I'm not ready yet. So it's legit. Some people feel like they need to get ready in order to do this work. Or the next excuse is, it won't work for me. This work, this inner work, this won't work for me. Like, I've tried it, it won't work. I'm too set in my ways to change. I mean, that's so real, right? And that is like a closed mindset, which is understandable. Like a lot of people have a very protective, closed mindset. What are you afraid of? What are some of the things that I imagine people are afraid of when they start or entertain or are starting to be curious about doing this work? Some people are really afraid that if they start doing the work that they won't like the real them. That is so real. Like, what if I like do all this inner discovery work and I realize that I don't like myself? And that is something that we work with because we all struggle with self loathing. We've been internalized to believe that we don't deserve to take up space. We internalize that we aren't worthy to be loved. We're unlovable. The other obstacle that people are afraid of is that if they do this inner work with addressing money wounds, attachment wounds, parent relationship wounds, you might end up losing your parents. And that's a really legit fear too, because a lot of people have the misconception that if you do this work, you need to break up with your parents right away, or you need to have hard conversations with your parents. And we're not saying that. We're not doing that here. There is nothing that anyone will force you to do in this container in your healing work. And if you're finding that in your healing containers, people are forcing you to do something that you're not ready to do, it's not going to be a good fit. So I hope you don't enter into any like healing groups or coaches, work with coaches that like force you to do things without your consent. And that is not good practice. Um, I like to tell people whenever you're ready, you're going to be ready to do this work. And that might not be right now, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean you need to like break up with anyone while you're in this container, break up with your parents or have hard conversations with them. No, doesn't mean that at all. Um, Another fear that people have is like, I'm afraid of revealing a secret that I'm not ready to share. And that's another thing too. Like, we are not in the business of forcing people to reveal things. And it's all about consent and safety. And if you are holding on to secrets, do, which all secrets have power over you, secrets have power over you. Any secrets that you're holding on to will have power over you. But it is not for like anyone to know except who you want to know. Like you have autonomy and agency in who you share your truth with and who you share your secrets with. Another fear is like, this world is so racist and oppressive. If I stop my people pleasing behavior, hustling behavior, work addiction, I can't protect myself or find safety. And I might get fired, or I might lose my job, or I might lose my, friends. And that's such a real thing too. And it is true. You cannot fully, you're not like, you cannot stop doing your survival strategies. But in our container, we are curious. We just stop and pause, and we allow people to be curious about what would happen if they paused or like slowed down just a micrometer in in these behaviors that they do that don't serve them anymore. What if they slow down just a little bit? What would happen? So we get curious on that. Another fear that people have in doing inner work is I might get overreactive and I might impulsively start in engaging in dangerous behavior like drinking or doing too many like drugs, or like I might go off the deep end and do X, Y, and Z, and it might jeopardize my routines. And that's totally legit too. And we would work with that in the container. We're not in the business of like re-traumatizing people. It's not in our business to like get people out of their like window of tolerance, and flood the system. It's not to our benefit. So we will work with folks to help slow them down, but we're not in the business of like flooding flooding your parts. Another thing is I've tried all the things. Another fear is I've tried all the things and they're not working. I can't be helped. How many of us struggle with that? Like that is so real, right? Like we have like read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, done all the things, but they just are not working. And why is that? And so just getting curious about like, okay, so they have not worked. How is it working for you now that you're in this position? What what can we take risks on? What can we try that may or may not work in the future? Can we be curious about what might work in the future? If you tried all the things, what about this one thing that I'm inviting you to? What about trying it and seeing if it does help? The last fear that I want to cover is being afraid of getting overwhelmed with dark feelings and not being able to function. This is a really, really common fear that people feel when they're doing the inner work. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can handle all the big feelings that might come up. And that's totally legit. Like, again, we're not in the business of like trying to flood people and re traumatize people. That's not our intention. And so, really understanding that will help us to, hi, Sume, to really see that like it is, it's not in our best interest to flood the system, to overwhelm the system. So, what do you have to lose if you don't do the inner work emotionally? What do you have to lose to like, if you don't do this inner work on your business emotionally? Well, emotionally, if we don't do this inner work and we're like entrepreneurs in our small businesses, maybe we're the CEO, maybe we're the in partnership with other teammates, our unresolved attachment wounds will be projected onto our clients. It will be projected onto our teammates. It will be projected onto yourself. And what I mean by that with attachment wounds is your fear of abandonment, your guilt wounds, and your relationship wounds that are unresolved from childhood that lead to fears of upsetting other people or lead to fears of you being abandoned unconsciously. So, how that shows up as CEOs is that sometimes we leave our clients in a state of helplessness unconsciously. Of course, it's like really unconscious, but we lead our clients to want to stay close to us and not have them like really be released when they need to be. And that's like a really, really common like attachment wound that shows up with like CEOs and healers and practitioners. Another really common unresolved emotional pain wound that shows up is like lack of boundaries. We do all the things, we keep ourselves really busy without slowing down because there's a fear that if we slow down, if we say no, we have to accept all the clients and we have to like cater to their availabilities. We have to like not think of our availabilities and go over our time in session um or like not reinforce our late fee or cancellation fees or not be really upfront about our needs. That's part of the attachment wound that shows up in our businesses. And when we don't do the inner work around that, it gets continually projected over and over. What ends up resulting is like procrastination, is self-doubt, is imposter syndrome that ultimately sabotages our business. And burnout too. Burnout is like a huge thing that results from attachment wounds. A lot of people think like burnout is just the root cause, but the root cause is not burnout. It's burnout is just a symptom of something deeper. Um, Also, the inability to form relationships. In our business of being CEOs, it's all about relationships. And when we can't form relationships because we have this inner, we haven't done the inner work of cultivating how our inner parts are like, oh, that's weird. I got disconnected, but I'm glad I'm back. Okay. So when we don't do that inner work to cultivate like us having our backs, us feeling so safe and secure with ourselves, we don't reach out in community. We don't reach out in making relationships, forming relationships. And then the last part is missed opportunities for growth and fulfillment. Without addressing the emotional wounds, you might you might live in fear of success. And this is all deeply, deeply unconscious. Like you might have parts of you that are just like so fearful of success, and you might actually unconsciously not go for it. What do you have to lose financially when you don't do this work? There's huge losses with finances because you're the main person wearing all the hats. You're the main person wearing the hat of marketer. You're the main person wearing the hat of like accountant. You're the main person wearing the hat of practitioner. You're the main person supervising. You're the main person being a practitioner and healer. You're the main person handling all the CEO, your financial stuff. And when you don't do the inner work that's in parallel with the business skill work, you don't have effective leadership while you're wearing all these hats, because these hats might actually have conflicting beliefs about each other. Like the marketer in you might want to like be out there and be um, publicizing. They want to be like really like loud and proud about your practice, but the healer inside of you might want to be private. The healer inside of you might want to be like really like behind closed doors and quiet. And so when we have these conflicting parts, or the student might be like, no, you have imposter, you don't know enough. You got to keep learning. So I'm not going to let you like go out there and be publishing stuff, marketing yourself. You need to study. You need to keep studying. So like if you have these parts of you that are conflicting, you will not have financial growth because you're not out there putting out your um, advertising your services. And there's a negative impact on company culture too. So in within your teams that you're leading, you might not have a sense of like cohesiveness with yourself, and people might feel it. They might be like, "Oh, this person's like sending me mixed messages, or this person's confusing me, or this person's just like projecting their shit on me and I'm just going to quit." How many of us worked for bosses who are genuinely like dysfunctional in their personal lives and it leaked through in their professional lives? I imagine like all of us have stories about that, and all of us would like, would jump in joy to have managers and bosses and CEOs that we will work under do their inner work of healing so they don't take their stuff out on us. Like, I know I would love that. I would love to work under a CEO that has like that inner outer resonance. They walk the walk and talk the talk. And also financially, what this is going to cost you if you don't do the inner work is you're going to burn out and stress. And what that leads to is like you have difficulty with work life balance, and you really like are just like in bed recovering because you're so exhausted in your adrenals. And so that is like why this work is so important, to do that inner work of cultivating embodied embodied CEO, is because the stakes are high when your company rests on your leadership, and your leadership rests on your self leadership and your inner leadership. My group is my group coaching practice is accepting 8 people. We're capping our admissions at 8 people. And we invite, this is like part of the work that we do. We invite people who are entrepreneurs to do this inner work of like getting their like house in order, basically. And this is a great time to do it during the recession. And during the water rabbit year, the lunar calendar talks about how the water rabbit year is a year of healing, a year of rest, a year of like recovery from battle. And it's sandwiched in between the year of the tiger and the year of the dragon, I believe, like two very big forces, right? And the water rabbit, the energy behind that is that it values us to heal and to take time to really take account and inventory of our energy reserves and of our um of like where we are in our relationships, and to get that stuff back in line so that we could like fiercely go out the year after and like really take the bull by the horns and grow. And there are years, there's seasons in our business. Some will be in maintenance mode, some will be in um, healing mode. Some will be dormant. We probably, some of us probably won't earn profit this year. And that's okay. That's just a season. It's just seasonal. And sometimes we don't know how long that season will last, but like really taking the time during this season to do that inner healing work so that you could be set up well for when like growth is called. As I said, I'm accepting 8 people, and the link to apply my is in my bio. Um, www.theunburnoutstrategy.com. Fill it in. Um, Schedule a time with me in that link, and then we'll have a conversation to see if we're a good fit for each other, a good fit for our needs. And then I will enroll you right then and there in the session if we are a good match for each other. So come prepared with your questions, come prepared with your credit card. If you are ready to join, come with your credit card, come prepared. And I will send you more information. Look on my website and we'll have a chat. I cannot wait to talk to you. I will look forward to seeing you soon. And again, DM me with questions if you have any questions. Bye.